running low on the memory on this phone, so it keeps on cutting off. So anyway, back to the subject at hand. You only live once, and it's true. And a lot of people think that's like, what I got to lose? You ain't got nothing to lose. You can't even lose your life. So you only live once, but you live forever. So that's even better. So that's what you got to understand. And people say, oh, well, if you knew that you live forever, maybe you would stay stagnant, or, because you got all the time in the world. You honestly have all the time in the world. You're infinite. You're infinite, baby. Ain't no lies, ain't no doubts about it. You know this. So that, but at the same time, is, so if you're not somewhere where you want to be, you don't want to take your time. You don't want to take your sweet old time and be in a dark place, be suffering, going through pain. Why? That's no fun. No one likes that. So, the sooner you can get to a good place, a good spot, the sooner the better. So trying to get there. And you've got to remember all the words that you speak and you think. Listen, you can change your ideas. It's okay to change your mind. You want to do this, I'm going to do this, I'm going to do that. Listen, it's gonna come to fruition one way or another. But what I'm saying is, you change. You have one solid path that you take, but it's like watching, just like going out into like a national park or somewhere like that. You got the path, but then you got trails and different things that just, they all lead to different sections. So you might take this one, and you might say, what, maybe this ain't for me. And, you veer off and go into another trail. But they're all interconnected one way, like the veins in your body, or like all the rivers and lakes to the ocean. It's all interconnected. That's the way you have to understand it. You got to look in all these different things in nature, and you see that they all, like they talk about the Fibonacci sequence, and the golden spiral and all this stuff. Even on your fingertips, it's present. You got swirls. So, like I said, it's that's another playoff of the eternal existence that we have. And the sooner you know that, the better. So to go on, I was in a huge depression at one time. I was like really bad off. I mean, I've always been like that since a kid. Like I always had this fear of death since a young child. Like I was always contemplating that, because it was like, it seemed very scary to think like, you die and that's it. It's no more. And, it always was in the back of my mind all throughout my whole life. Always just sitting there like the elf on the shelf, just kind of, in the back of my mind. And sometimes it got worse. Sometimes it got, never really got better until I finally realized, man, this thing don't stop. It does not stop ever. And man, it was such a relief. I had a moment where I was walking around, and it was late night. I was looking at the stars and stuff, and I wasn't drinking, wasn't smoking weed, I wasn't doing anything. I mean, that's pretty much all I do. I've done some other stuff, but I mean, I've always been, pretty simple. Anyhow, I was, walking around. I was listening to Eminem's "Music to Be Murdered By," and it was so weird because it was like the mathematics were really getting to me. Like I'm like Neo in the Matrix. I see numbers. I see, like every time I'm walking by, because I'm a numerologist, naturally. So I look by and I see a name, like the stop sign. Like I just added up in my head. 1939, 54, 70, it just comes to me like that. And so it's like, okay. And then so anyway, I was going and I was walking, and it was really weird because I was in communion with God. at the time, the moment. And it was like these thoughts just started coming to me. You know, that's why people say, like, you hear voices. It's just, you know, it's thoughts that come to you, that communicate. Because, you know, sometimes you just get a foreign thought, you don't know where it came from. It's not something you were, like, consciously thinking of, but just pops up in your mind. Where do these thoughts come from? And that's what Tesla talked about, is like, you know, we're like a receptor. You know, like something else communicating with us. And he said he received messages from, you know, a superior being. You know, it was coming from, like, outer space. So understand what he was saying, and that's kind of what was happening to me. And, you know, I lost my mother at a pretty young age. You know, I was 20 years old. Anyhow, so I really had, it really broke me down. And I kind of was like, kind of at battle with myself, battle with, you know, God, so to speak. And, you know, I read a bunch of stuff, and I got so super smart. After I read like 1,000 books, I was like, you know, I knew I was a genius. I was like, you know, I know everything at this point. Can't nobody tell me nothing. I can answer any question. I can, you know, do this, that, and the other. And, you know, but it's just, you know, like Jim Carrey had a video. It was like, he said, oh, we're just atoms and quarks and all this other stuff, right? So, you know, you kind of get a little cynical. You know, it's just like, oh, it's just elements. You know, so anyway, while I'm on this road, God's speaking to me. It was almost like, you know, he just told me he loves me. It was like the hairs of my arms stood up. And he said, your mother loves you, your mother's here. And bro, it was just chills. It was straight chills. And it felt so good. It was, you know, tears. I was just bawling. You know, they talk about, you know, bawling, but, you know, it was joy. It was such a relief. Because it's happened to me before. But, you know, then later on in life, you're like, oh, it was just a coincidence. It was just a figment of my imagination. And, when it came upon me, it was so wonderful, so calming. I felt so terrific. It was just like, you know, like being held by your mother when you're a baby. You know, it was just like, I felt so comforted. And I was like, man, you know, it was like, you know, maybe 11 o'clock, 12 o'clock at night. And I was like, I just gotta, man, I gotta tell somebody. I gotta share this. I can't keep this to myself, you know? I can't keep this to myself. I gotta share this as soon as possible, as quick as possible. So I was staying with my boss lady at the time I was working with, and man, I just started running. I broke out. I just ran. It was like maybe, you know, almost a mile. You know, and I just bust out. I'm running down the street. I'm flying. Right? I've been away from some of my family members and stuff. I was isolated. I was in hermit mode. I mean, deep. I'm like off in the woods somewhere. Just, you know, I went To Kill a Mockingbird style, you know. And so, I call my aunt and uncle out of nowhere. I just say, hey, you know, I just want to check on you guys, and whatever. Like I said, I haven't talked to them in years at that point. We're like literally like right down the street, and I could hear like a fear in my voice, you know, like I was scared or something, because it was like an ill omen. Like I felt something like an evil presence or something going on, and so I went by that place the next day. I went by their house the next day. I paid a visit, and I said, hey, you know, that started breaking down my revelations, talking like I never talked before, telling them things that I never said before. I just kept to myself, you know, and like, I don't know if they were ready. You know, I'm like, you know, my name's not Kyle, my name's Alexander, this and that. So anyway, I don't really know if they understand what I'm saying, because they're just kind of like, oh, yeah, oh, you talked to your mother, oh. And, you know, I was trying to comfort one of my aunts because she had lost her husband and her daughter. and she was still, you know, extremely hurt and going through the mourning and all this, and it's been, you know, it was just, she was getting tore apart. And I had been there, I'd done that. So I know exactly what she was going through. But now I had made it to the next stage. And so I'm like, you know, I want to go back and help other people out and bring them to this next stage, you know, and, you know, ease their pain, ease their grief, you know, stuff like that. So anyhow, got someone kind of chasing me around, bothering me right now. But, so I want to get this out as quick as possible. Like I left, and, you know, I thought everything was cool and everything was good. And then, shortly after that, I get a phone call, from another uncle of mine, his wife, whom I had never met at the time, but she knew of me. It's one of my favorite uncles. And, she just said, hey, we want to know how you're doing, you know, if everything's all right with you. I said, yeah, everything's fine. Everything's great. I said, everything's great. People chasing me down. I gotta go. So, I said, yeah, everything's fine. What's going on? You know, what's up? And she said, oh, well, we heard you had a breakdown. I said, what? I said, who told you that? And he said, oh, we just heard it. I mean, obviously, I can put two and two together. I know exactly where it came from, who said it. But that was their response. That was their response to having a revelation from God. And I go and I share that with them. And all of a sudden, Kyle had a breakdown. Kyle lost his mind. Dude, I'm like so happy. And so, like, you know, like my life purpose, my major conundrum that I've been working on for like 40 years, you know, 40, you know, at the time I was probably, let me think, it's probably around 2019 or 2020. So, like maybe 37, 38, somewhere in there. And, you know, it's like, imagine working on, you know, your life's work. You know, all these years go by, and then finally you discovered the answer. You got, you know, you got it. You know, you got the proof. You got all the science down, and you're like, okay, now I gotta go spit this. I gotta put this. I gotta put this out there ASAP. And then that's like one of the first things, one of the first responses I get is, you know, Kyle had a breakdown. So that's the breakdown. I broke it all down. All right. Anyway, gotta go. Love, peace, happiness.